Welcome back to Tickets to Travel, the business of travel experiences. I'm your host, Mario Bauduin, and today's episode is a conversation that's been about 25 years in the making with someone who's helped build the online travel business from dial-up days to dynamic pricing. Joining me is Daniel Wathen, one of the original architects behind Expedia's hotel supply engine, a Las Vegas market expert, and one of the few people who can say without irony, I remember when online travel wasn't online. Daniel and I weren't competitors. We were part of the first wave back when getting a hotel onto the internet meant physically walking into the lobby, convincing a skeptical GM this whole web thing wasn't a scam, and then faxing in rate sheets like we were launching a space mission or something. We've lived through it all, the post-9/11 bounce back, the flash sales frenzy of 2008, and now the surge in event-driven travel and demand-based everything. In this episode, we dive into why Las Vegas demand feels different in 2025 and how to read between the headlines, what ticketing still hasn't learned from hotel revenue management, and how live events are becoming the new lodestar for travel demand, if the industry can keep up. If you've ever tried to explain what you do in travel tech at Thanksgiving and ended up just saying, I sell hotels on the internet, this one is definitely for you. So follow us on all of the socials at Tix2, the number 2 Travel Pod, and check out more at www.tttpod.com because, as usual, Tickets to Travel starts now. Welcome to Tickets to Travel, the business of travel experiences. I'm your host, Mario Bauduin. And on today's pod, we have Daniel Wathen. Welcome to the...
Good morning, Mario. Roles have been reversed. I'm usually the one interviewing. So it's
okay. So I can see why this might be a little awkward. But also, this is a conversation that's long overdue. We've known each other. We've known each other for a long time. I think one way to start this off, it's got to be like 25 years.
Oh, yeah. We were babies when we were...
Yeah, because it's 2000. So I started what, April of 2001, I think.
Oh, nice.
And you were there before.
August 99.
Right. So August 99. All right. So what we have to talk about is one, yes, we've known each other a long time, but where we started, because I like to say, hey, I'm one of the old school TravelScape Expedia guys who were one of the first team members. I would say it was probably like 15, 20 of us who did the initial contracting for hotels. And my story always goes, Daniel, like I was the guy who would sit in the hotel lobby and say, I'm going to put your hotel on the internet. We're going to make millions of dollars. And they would say, shut up, kid, get out of here. Luckily, that all worked out. But you have even more of a story because you started out at not TravelScape, but at LVRS.
I was hired originally by LVRS. And for everyone, that's Las Vegas Reservation System, which was the primary business of the soon to become fully branded TravelScape.
And people are like, what's TravelScape? Is that like Netscape
exactly.
Travel or what is that? But
So Mario, when I was hired, I got hired at a company where I was like, internet travel, what's...
Yeah, but tell me about that. Was it... So you had Tim and Tom, who were the original founders of TravelScape, right? Or LVRS. The story goes that they were, where they go to San Diego State or something, and they had a business where they would buy ads for people who would come to Las Vegas. And so they just started getting inventory at their friends' hotels.
Before that, Tim, I think it's Tim. Tim actually worked at, Tim, if you're watching this, hopefully, if you watch, hit me up. Number one,
call me.
He was working valet at Palace Station.
And they went to school with the Fertittas, right? They were friends.
Yes, they were all part of the, involved in the Fertittas. For those that don't know, they were the original owners of, every single night was about like trying to pull people in for walk-ins, right? So Tim just got, hey, there's distressed inventory. And he built a pegboard, which by the way, was in a storage closet when we were back at Expedia. That historical item is owned by Expedia brand right now, or EG. So yeah, and he's like, I guess he said, hey, I can do this better or what have you. And so they said, prove it. And so we started working on it. And that morphed into this business model that became Las Vegas Reservation System.
Attention sports fans, teams, and leagues, whether it's the season opener, playoffs, or the championship game, Bookseats.com makes getting there a breeze. With BookSeats, you can customize your ultimate sports travel package by bundling game tickets, flights, and hotels, all in one easy-to-use platform. No hassle, no stress. Just you, the team, and the game day excitement. For professional sports organizations, Bookseats.com offers B2B solutions to create exclusive fan travel packages, increase fan engagement, build loyalty, and make every away game feel like home field advantage with professionally curated travel experiences. From diehard fans to professional leagues, Bookseats.com is your go-to partner for game-changing travel. Visit Bookseats.com today and make your next sports trip unforgettable. BookSeats, your all-access pass to the ultimate sports travel experience.
Tired of overpriced tickets and sketchy promoters? Discotheque is your personal nightlife concierge. Discover guest lists, discounted tickets, and VIP tables in cities around the world. Whether you're booking EDC in Vegas or a yacht party in Croatia, Discotheque gets you in. With over 1.9 million downloads and real-time push alerts for the best deals. Save money, party smarter. Download Discotheque on iOS or Android today.
And at the time, it was all call center, right? So it was calling for room inventory from the Las Vegas properties every single day. We'll get into what's the technology. And then there was no online when they started that, right? And
yeah.
So they launched the sort of first version of Las Vegas Reservation System. What they thought perfected it, got it running, making money, and then said, there's other destinations outside of Las Vegas. We should open this up. That was when I was hired, we're opening it up to the rest of the United States.
You were the first New York City market man.
I was the second New York City market manager.
Oh, shout out to who was the first?
The first name, her name was Jamie Pione. She went on, at the time, she went on maternity leave, and I came in because I ran all the rest of it was New York, right? And then it was the entire, half of the United States.
Yep.
And so they're like, hey, you know what you're doing. You come in and run New York.
It's so funny, dude. I hadn't thought of Jamie Pione until you said that. And then a picture of her just popped into my brain because when she came back from maternity, she was kind of doing some of the training and stuff. But I didn't realize she was the first contractor. That's funny.
She was the first for New York. So when I started, there were probably 700 listings on the TravelScape side outside of Vegas. And then within a year, I personally probably onboarded 2,000.
Sounds about right.
Properties. And get really good at negotiating when you're getting told no at every single first conversation. And this is when we used us as a comparison point against that horrible company at the time, hotels.com.
No, it wasn't hotels.com.
It was, it was
Hotel Reservations Network, also known as HRN. Yeah, because you were early days of the battle. So was I, though, in Miami. And shout out to Suze Beltran. She and I would meet each other in a lobby, and the hotel would be like, oops, double booked them. And it was this really awkward sort of type of situation where
weapons. It was that. And HRM, they vary their commission. They're holding you hostage on room blocks, and we had just one commission model.
Yeah, that was the difference, right? Is that TravelScape allowed the hotels to raise the rate. And we had that sort of variable margin. So we would encourage them to do it because we'd make more money. The problem became that HRN would raise their margin, but they wouldn't allow them to raise the net rate. Right? So they were getting cheated. In their eyes, it was a traditional wholesale model. Look, I bought your room and I own them. So let me put them out and I can charge whatever I want based on demand versus, it was more of a partnership on the TravelScape side where hey, we're going to flex with you. We're still going to make our 25, 30%. Whether it goes up or down, But at the end of the day, we were, and I say this to a lot of people too, that we were probably that wave of contractors who were training a reservations manager to become a revenue manager.
I would say that revenue management fundamentals, including parity, did not exist. And if they did, it'd be like 5% of current, right? So there were no revenue management system. It was all here, your experience, right?
Yeah.
And the models were, as you described, the models were very different. So in order to keep your commission/margin down with HRN, you had to throw more rooms in. You had to maintain that 10 room. If not, they were going to take 45% commission, 50% commission, what have you. We, being HRA, could truly revenue manage that. And that's what we did on the TravelScape side. We think the statute of limitations has been long enough. We owned inventory, AKA we had contracted inventory that we had to pay for. We didn't really own it.
Took risk.
But I had to revenue manage that inventory. And it was like, sell 10 more rooms. What if we're going to drop it $5? 50% of my job at that time, you remember, managing 3 properties. Anyway.
There's so many places we could go in terms of, but I think that's the other piece that people probably don't understand is that back then, 20 years ago, we did everything. We would go contract the hotel. We'd load the hotel into the system. We would gather all the content, all the photos, and then we would manage it. And even from a market perspective, we managed the sort order, which is now like this thing that people are like, oh, it's all automated and it's based on personalization. Right? But back then it was like day trading. I could call a hotel and be like, hey, can you drop your rate by X amount? And then I'll pop you up to the top of the sort order. Once the inventory goes, you drop off and I'll find another one. And like, you're basically doing deals the entire time in very short stints because we had the data. We knew when the demand was coming in and we could get ahead of it, depending on who gave us more inventory.
I have to tell you, this is a Mario Daniel moment. I'm on a call and it's an abrasive call, right? And I am like, okay, hey, can you refresh your screen? Because they're in our sort order. Can you refresh your screen on the other end? What happened to me? I go, if you don't give me that rate, that's just what happened. And they like literally pushed them down.
You just like,
Mario is like, because the partners in Florida were nicer, right? He's like, oh, you're. I was like,
but those days were fun, man. We had a lot of power, but I don't think we understood that we had the power, at least at the beginning.
We definitely used the tools, and we had things were way faster then. You could do certain activities like that. I don't think there's any on company today that doesn't have some like super complex algorithm that's running their sort of.
Yeah, and the personalization, depending on where that IP address is or what destination there's
done.
But back then, it was just like one set of demand coming in. I think we're doing limited Google ad buying, right? Like there was no Google. It's like
no Google.
AOL, Yahoo.
It was Yahoo.
Yeah. And we became popular very quick with certain hotels. So when did you realize, because you were at Expedia for a long time. You were there for 15 years?
22.
22 years. That's like being in the military or something, man. To be at a company for 22 years, you've seen everything in online travel, right?
And there's nothing but stories now. Remember
but how did your role evolve? Those early days too.
Yeah, I think originally I was hired as a product manager. That's what we did. We managed onboarding products.
Product meaning hotels.
Yeah, bring on as much as possible. It wasn't like now what product management is all associated with technology and technology. Right. And so that changed very quickly into, no, we manage markets because once we had a certain product breadth, then we're managing actual markets. And you can't jump from St. Louis to New York. You need to understand New York City versus St. Louis. Mario will tell you, I was fast and furious. There was nothing stopping me. I had a lot of energy and I got to that senior role pretty quickly. Because I was a part of I'll call myself a product manager insofar as we developed a system called Hotel Inventory Management System, HIMS, the original. Me and an industry powerhouse, Carrie Katerick, were part of that subject matter experts because I had New York, so I had to be a part of it. Shout
out to Carrie, who hired me.
Revenue management came from New York right? So
That's right. Everything in hotels starts in New York City, then it goes to Las Vegas, and then the rest of the world. Yeah.
So we helped the Expedia team understand the merchant business, because they came from Microsoft and they were all about travel guides, and the original Expedia was like on a
CD-ROM.
CD-ROM. It was a travel guide, like an electronic travel guide.
Yeah, it was like an encyclopedia, like a CD-ROM or a Atlas, or that was the travel guide.
Yeah, so we educated them on that, got through all those sort of revenue management fundamentals that we knew. Carrie's experience was Caribbean, Las Vegas, Florida. Mine was all the corporate destinations, New York City, et cetera. So we got them to build our first version. We launched the middle of August of 2001. I processed the first extranet change because we had an extranet that hotel suppliers could go on and actually interact with. It triggered a note to me and I processed it on August 25th, 2001. And then 3 weeks later, 9/11 happened.
Boy. Yeah, no, so I remember this vividly because up until that point, we were back selling report.
Yeah.
And the extranet or HIMS was like this monumental step forward. And then we became trainers of it to get.
We were signing people up left and right.
Yeah.
Try to get them involved. New York, luckily, was our beta destination. There were more users on the extranet, good probably 50 users. It's weird. Hotel systems at the time were locked out of the internet. They weren't connected.
It's amazing to think about, which then, especially in online, when you look at online travel over the last 20, 30 years, there's been a couple of different waves. And I think the first initial wave was really 9/11, where you and I lived through that and there's so many associated stories because after 9/11, that was really the rise of online travel because that's when the hotels were like, this is a lot easier to manage, going to be able to put our inventory here, and it just disappears, right? Like it gets sold and they get hooked on it if they have the right type of introductory offer or something that happened. So that it goes from 9/11 and then I would say 2000, the sort of economic issues that were happening, Lehman Brothers. And then you see this kind of born out of it is like flash sale sites, right? Like the jet setters, the Groupons, the Living Socials. And then there's this other shift in online travel, closed user groups, right? And then there's another one with, I guess, like attractions and ticketing and add-ons in that way. So I feel like the next one is event travel, like around live events. And you've had a little bit of experience with ticketing as well. I think that's where we started to reconnect. Yes. But over this time, especially during that time of 9/11, what do you think changed the behavior of not just the industry, but like how the hotels saw the internet?
Game day energy, rivalries, history in the making. Grab your tickets for pro sports action at tickets.expotravel.com, where fans belong. Score yours today at tickets.expotravel.com. Your audience is listening, but are they engaged? At Expo Travel Media, we create professional, immersive podcasts that capture the attention and keep listeners coming back for more. From concept development to recording, editing, and distribution, we handle it all. So you can focus on what you do best, telling your story. Ready to launch or elevate your podcast? Let's make your voice heard. Visit us at expotravel.com. That's expotravel.com. And let's start the conversation.
If you think of those two specific periods, in addition to this duress, that's pressure that's put down on the industry. And usually they have to lay a lot of people off, right? So not only is it duress, there's pressure in the market, but you have a very small group of individuals that are having to do the same. So 9/11 for the first 6 months prompted a lot, like 20% of the workforce just got pumped.
Right.
So really it was like everything that had to do with automation, and this is throughout the last 25 years. Every time we hit another hurdle in automation or another hurdle in revenue management automation, another hurdle in AI involved in, it's duress, something hits the market, we have less people, and we have to solve for things automatically. I'd say one of the things that prompted folks to go online is the phone lines went down, which was strange because the internet was, so the revenue manager could not call me but could email me and or jump on the extranet and strip out inventory.
Or what was happening during that time period? Remember when all the planes were when that happened?
Yeah.
And I remember all of the airport hotels in Florida, not all of them, but a good portion of them started to pull all of their inventory out so that they could raise the rates very high. And I remember all of us sitting in the pit, kind of sitting there going, do we allow this to happen? This is complete price gouging. But this moment in time where you start to figure out like who was a good person and who was a bad person. And it really was this technology that allowed us to be able to view it because we were behind the scenes. We saw a news report because even then it was a little bit slower to get out, but we knew personally, like the person who was like, you know what, I don't care. You guys can oversell me or whatever, but I'm not going to honor your reservations. I'm going to get $2,000 tonight on that one room.
Yes.
And so it was a very interesting ties to these type of stories. But I think what we're getting at is that when something big like that happens, travel in of itself and technology, very resilient. And it creates these efficiencies with people at hotels or people, distributors like that. And so I did you see the same thing? Because I wasn't really in that mode around COVID, but how do you think COVID affected everything?
COVID shut Las Vegas off.
Oh.
The strip closed. That did not happen during 9/11. That's what 5,000 planes grounded. I would say that every single time there is a huge uplift in travel. Now, it may not be at the rates that everyone wants them to be, but the amount of travel that the revenge travel part of this, like you can't keep the humans locked up for 2 years and expect that they're not going to spend every last red cent that they've saved and or the money that they don't have and go travel. So I think you're going to see 9/11, 6 months after 9/11, we had a stellar year, but we were in that super growth mode. So what did we have to compare it with? Okay. But the hotel industry rebounded really quickly. And then that takes a little longer, but still, I would say 2010, stellar year, 11, stellar, 12, stellar. Being a part of that was pretty phenomenal. And that's when all the, hey, we can get more, or wow, there's revenue management here. We don't have to set one rate for a season. We can actually now vary our rates weekend, midweek. We can vary our rates by occupancy.
By hour.
The systems got better, right? And they had, these revenue folks had access to this. So they could make more informed decisions. 25 years ago, there were not really, and it was all here. Hey, we're not going to get any more than $29 rate at Palace Station or wherever it was.
It's interesting that you also have a little bit of ticketing in your background. Working at Vegas.com and knowing the Las Vegas market. I'm chuckling when you're talking about 9/11 Vegas because we lived there during 9/11. And I remember going to Mandalay Bay and hanging out, going to Rum Jungle or whatever it was, and it's just being empty and going like, oh, there are no flights coming in. On the ticketing side or that when you were at Vegas.com, did you see the same kind of principles from revenue management and hotels to ticketing? Did you see anything?
I would say what's interesting about my career that at various points I've had to actually relearn. Ticketing is a vastly different type of business, mostly because it is like hotel 20 years ago.
Yes, exactly.
And they're only getting better. I mean, they're better now at revenue management, but a lot of the systems that they're using are structured like hotel systems were 20 years ago.
It's not revenue management. It's called dynamic pricing.
Dynamic pricing. Dynamic pricing, that's really just manual. It may have changed in the last year. Just the way the ticketing is, and it's all distressed inventory. If you don't sell that ticket for the same day, I would say for a business that didn't really need to do revenue management, now they're finding that there is a lot of benefit. I think what's great about the ticketing industry is they don't have to necessarily learn it like the hotel industry had to learn it. They'll adopt fundamentals, I would say quickly, because the technologies will just be available. Once the technologists can build out revenue management platforms that support all sorts, hundreds and hundreds of different ticketing platforms, they're going to get there a lot faster, though.
I think you're right. Interesting, because it is fragmented from ticketing systems the same way a PMS or a CRS system would be, except in the hotel side, you don't have one big monster. who kind of controls the supply and the demand in terms of Ticketmaster. And so that's a little bit of a complexity, I think. If you're going to have a platform that manages dynamic pricing throughout all these different primary systems,
Yes.
You still got to get past those guys. And I feel like they're making strides. If you go to try to buy your Coldplay ticket, you're subjected to dynamic pricing. I think a topic that comes up here quite a bit, and because you have a revenue management background and some ticketing, the difference being is that hotels understand the available inventory. So you can see the prices change, and it's 365 days a year versus you have one Beyonce show and you don't know how many available tickets there are. All you know is that once you hit refresh, the price changes. And so there's all this discussion around how they should be priced when at the end of the day, there's just a ton of demand coming in over this one particular date to manage.
I would say there's a level of complexity also being added that's not true in the hotel space. And that is you have a bunch of AI bots that are buying this inventory. So it gets gobbled up and it gets gobbled up quickly. And there's not a human being involved in it necessarily. Right? But the human being is, you name an artist, I can't get in. There's no, right, to get these tickets. And it's revenue managing. And so all this inventory ends up going out on the secondary market. There's like a whole secondary level of business involved in this. And that's not true in the hotel industry. Right?
That's right. There's no resale.
The secondary business in hotel is Airbnb, verbal.
Or you go to another hotel.
Yeah, right? Like there's not another Beyonce playing.
Yeah, that's a good, it's related, it's similar, but definitely different because there's more available inventory at different levels of rates on the hotel side versus one venue.
I personally think that in order for, and I'm a disruptor, right? So I think this is to Ticketmaster and Access. Like they should launch studies about how much inventory gets gobbled up by secondary market and be open. Is this something that this uncovers everything, right? The artist probably doesn't care. I'm not saying that Beyonce is a team, right? But they make money depending on how they've negotiated the contract with Ticketmaster on the number of times the ticket gets. And so they, being some of these folks, are probably okay with a ticket turning hands because they make a percentage off of that. And so
very complex. Yeah. You don't know how many the artist and the promoter have actually held back for themselves. So let's say they have an Amex deal for their fan. So there's a percentage there, which Amex probably cuts them a nice check for several $1 million to get the rights to do that. You have, the resellers, to your point, they will gobble them up and then put them on the secondary market. Then you have this complexity of a fan who can't take out their entire day to go and sit online to buy on the primary, especially with music touring. Sports a little bit different. Like you're always going to have some type of ticket pricing because there's just more opportunity. Like if it's that one tour and fans are trying to get in, a lot of them, they just don't have the time. And so a lot of them have said, hey, you know what? I'll just wait for it to get to a secondary market. And that's the service they're providing to me. I think the transparency is one, artists and the promoter are not really saying how many they've held back to dictates what the pricing will look like.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, the secondary market, Ticketmaster in particular wants to cap the secondary market. But I think that is just like creating like a hotel getting direct business. No one else can sell it, or you're capped at $2 or whatever it is. But we're going to raise the primary ticket pricing and make everybody come to me. So I see both sides. It's really interesting. And I always liken it back to what we were talking about from a hotel revenue management standpoint, that it's different but similar because revenue management on the hotel side, they're always looking at available inventory based on occupancy by day or by night.
But the user, I don't know what Bellagio's occupancy is for August 17th, but at any given time, you can see what the public occupancy is for that. We're picking on Beyonce for that Beyonce show on August 17th.
She has it coming to her, man. That can't Carter.
But I don't think people know, like, maybe at launch, they only released 5,000 tickets. And, it's
right.
The map is whatever they say the map is, right? right? And so
that's what I'm getting at. It's like,
then,
where's the real transparency?
And then 2 weeks later, they do a repricing refresh because it'll take them 2 weeks to change the pricing.
Yeah, because they'll hold back tickets.
And then they release another 5, right? And the map says they're sold out, but are they sold out? Who knows? You know what?
I don't actually know, Daniel. That's my point. It's like, I see both sides. I understand why Ticketmaster wants this and they want to be artists for, but I also see the reseller side.
How maps are managed was very important to me when I was at Vegas.com because we wanted inventory, parity, and just what kind of access to what seats. I spend a lot of time looking at it. And when I go to try and buy a Lady Gaga ticket on the day and the entire map says that it's on a secondary market, first, as a consumer, I'm pissed because I want that Lady Gaga ticket that I was trying to buy. Second, I don't know if the impossibility of it just seems a little strange to me.
It's because if it's not available and it's on a secondary market, which secondary market?
Because
Ticketmaster has a secondary market
where they can revenue manage.
Exactly. So that's what I mean. It's a very complex topic, but because I'm like, people like us are interested in it because
I know, without being subversive, I think there's just a lot of what the ticketing industry has done to some extent they're way more public with information. And I think that's why folks are really curious as to how a ticket price is a ticket price. That's different than the hotel industry. And then vice versa, there's a lot of stuff that's shielded that not a lot of people understand.
No, and this is why we try to.
I think they're not going to follow the same track. Right? I think ticketing has enough uniqueness where they're gonna resolve some of their revenue management and make dynamic even more dynamic.
I also think there's just a fundamental difference that hotels are based on seasonality demand versus the actual demand of a fan base.
Yes.
So Lady Gaga, it could be in the middle of winter in New York City. She's still going to sell the place out. And so that's sort of why this is a passion project. Talking about this stuff is because I think live events in general, it's always been this way, but there hasn't been a huge spotlight on it until Taylor Swift. That live event can drive so much demand wherever it might be. And so if we could go to Lady Gaga and say, hey, do you want to make the most money on your packages, hotel packages? Do it in New York City in the first 2 weeks of January. No one is there. It's freezing cold. And you are going to get the biggest margin on any of this stuff.
If it's Taylor Swift, it's Wednesday at midnight. She could still sell that stadium out.
Exactly.
And not even blink an eye doing it.
But from a business perspective, like people like you and I, it doesn't even take much analysis, right? Like we understand the seasonality of a certain market. We understand what capacity looks like in terms of hotel supply around it. Couple that with Madison Square Garden available seats. And you could still sell a bunch of packages and also create the demand. And especially if you're doing touring, you could pick out certain destinations that could get you bigger margins where they need the help, essentially, on a shoulder, on a low season. And so that's some of the conversations that I have, not just on the podcast, but just as a consultant, is just really trying to strategically figure out what the most bang for you. Because a lot of the things on the entertainment side, Daniel, is driven by Beyonce, right? She's like, I think I want to be in Hawaii when everybody else is in Hawaii because it's cold elsewhere. And you're like, you're actually putting a lot of strain by entering a high demand show into an already busy. Yeah. And so just like having a quick conversation for us for a fee, we could help them understand what the best.
Don't platform your whole entire tour based on what you want.
Exactly. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Tell a story that you were a business building all of these destinations. Let's flip it.
Exactly. It wouldn't take that much for you to do a full analysis and say, hey, this is a preferred or recommended routing.
Oh yeah, you can totally do that. Right? And then at the same time, talk to every other theater in those markets about taking that deal.
Or hosting adjacent parties to drum up demand, because certain destinations are doing this, right? Like I had some guests on where they went to Scotland to see Taylor Swift. You were there. She had 3 shows over that course of the week, but they had wrapped buses of Taylor Swift. There were like coffee shops doing Taylor promotions. And so whether you got into the venue or not, you still experienced the Taylor Swift vibe because you're walking throughout the destination and being able to do this. So But that's also another message just to EMOs and CVBs and tourism boards. Be like, listen, you're probably already talking to Live Nation or whoever else, but if you can get everybody on board, the entire tide lifts all boats in that particular market because you're piggyback riding on the demand that's coming into it. And I don't think enough people in these industries understand that. It's a systematic process where people like you and I could come in and be like, here's the plan. And then this is how we manage around it. And here are the estimated margins and gross bookings or revenue that you can essentially make with this type of artist. Because the data is out there from a Coldplay down to a Red Hot Chili Pepper, whatever it is. There's so much data on the type of demand and the type of sellouts that they do that you could the effects of the impact in the travel market or just restaurants and other things.
Yeah, I think these super performers, because there's a group of them now, right? There's a lot to be said about that warning market that they're about to release.
Las Vegas in particular, you could have big headliners in 1 week.
Or when you're like, not to pick on St. Louis, but they don't have enough hotel inventory to support a large super performer, right? So it ends up being the entire Southern Illinois and that whole entire area radius, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, some small town 20 miles away from the venue that is still doable does not know that something just got released. Right? So there's a lot of revenue management. There's some symbiosis, I think, in these markets. Like, hey, this is going to happen. And so some folks get ahead of it really quickly and then they gouge, right? Which is not what I'm suggesting.
No, but they do it. They should do it in a revenue management fashion, right? Like, build up the base and then because that's what's happening is that you hear the announce because they don't communicate it. So I think there's like maybe a gap there, right? Get any of these entertainment companies, whether it be the World Cup or Live Nation or whoever, could hire a guy like you to say, I'm going to communicate this before it hits out into the markets to manage this in such a way where one, it's almost a PR role. Right.
The consultant will be like, I will tell everyone something is being announced tomorrow on these. Be prepared for that.
Be prepared. And this is how we suggest you prepare.
I'll sign whatever NDA that you want. I will not name the name.
No, but I think it's important because you and I are very unique in that we have that ticketing and travel background. And there aren't a lot of people who do. As you look at event travel is what they're coining it. Where do you see it changing? A bit transition of Vegas.com and Vivid Seats. And obviously Vegas.com is probably a perfect example of how this works because you're contracting hotels, you're contracting tickets for shows.
Yes.
And you probably have an idea.
Unique shows that come into play as well. I would say that the more unique the experience, the more successful it's going to be. This is my story for the rest of my life. So at 16, I went to Taylor Swift. I didn't. I went to Motley Crue. That was pretty big.
I would love to see the show at that time.
I can't even tell the story of the show because it has a parental rating.
Okay.
So it's going to be wildly like the Taylor Swifts, the Beyoncés, the Benton Boones, Sabrina Carpenters, all of these super Lady Gaga. That is going to continue. So they're big. They're huge event. It's where a human being can be very human and record the whole thing, right? They have the memory for the rest of their life. I think if you are an up and coming theater production of something new, something that someone can experience for the first time, it's going to be popular. Those shows that have been around a long time that may have movies after them, like there's some other sort of format that folks can experience it in, I think they're going to suffer a bit. So as far as the event travel, if it's in a location, I'm an American and it happens to be in Brazil, yes, I'm going to be part of the 2.5 million people that are going to have the largest concert on the planet ever.
You're talking about Lady Gaga, aren't you?
Yeah. There's no way that 700 square miles of that continent could not. Who would have thought a 2.5 million person event would be successful?
It was free.
Right. It was free, but there wasn't any issues with it. I don't know. I think that's going to continue for sure. I think good for the artists that they're going to. A lot of these tours are international. So I think as long as borders are the way they are, you can experience anything anywhere. And so I think you're going to see a lot of move around the planet in order to go see what they want to see. I would say a large number, later teen, early 20s folks that I know, they all went to Europe to go follow these artists versus live in Las Vegas, the entertainment capital of the world. They didn't see them here. They went to Provence or wherever experience elsewhere. And these are huge. This is $5,000-6,000 that they're spending on these vacations. This isn't like backpacking through Europe.
Per person.
Per person. They're doing it, right? And I'm like, that's wild. It's just a different approach to how they experience these things. And there's no way I was at 20 dropping $3,000 to fly to London to see Michael Jackson. Now, I probably should have, but there's no way I would have done it. It didn't even, who's doing that?
You're exactly right. That's one thing. I worked at Paul and we were doing destination festivals. We had a ton of data. We had a lot of consultants, Bain, McKinsey consultants who worked with us. And after you do the surveys, because of what's going on in the world, inflation, housing prices are really expensive now. So those people in their 20s, the Gen Z, millennial, they're not trying to save money. They're trying to have experiences and they will invest in them because also you overlap that with social media and you can make money through social media if you have these very unique aspirational experiences. That's been a huge shift and that was confirmed. So I think you're right. I think that attitudes have just shifted and event travel's here to stay. And actually, I think it's going to grow at various levels. And you live in the perfect place, right? Like you can see everything from Lady Gaga to the F1 now, Usher's residency or Wu-Tang's residency. Yeah. You get to see a lot of it. So I also consider you one of my Las Vegas experts because I think that was a good chunk of your Expedia life too, was managing Las Vegas, if I remember correctly. And so just to bring it all together as the entertainment capital of the world, as you mentioned, which I believe you. What's going on right now in Las Vegas? Have you seen the number drop? Is there a sentiment? There's all this stuff on social media that it's empty and all this and that, which I don't really believe. But what's your take on Las Vegas?
I would say Vegas is an international destination. So every time in the last 25 years that something has impacted international travel, without getting too political, but there's been some political moments throughout the last 25 years, Vegas takes a hit. I would also call Vegas a precursor to hospitality erosions. Vegas usually happens because it's fully leisure and New York gets impacted. So I would say that we're in that precursor. The summer tends to be much more of there's more international travel during the summer than there is at various other times of the year. And so we're just seeing the impact of it. And when you have a whole entire country that doesn't want to become the 51st state.
Yeah, I don't think people realize how much Canadian business.
This is the heyday launch pad for a lot of Canadians and they're not really coming. So I would say, yeah, we're feeling it here. But then there's so much entertainment and I'm going to call it country niche, but it's not. Very popular. Kenny Chesney sold out. It's Wizard of Oz is coming to the Sphere. Oh, that's going to be cool for a lot of folks to experience the Wizard of Oz. So there's just a lot to do, but the summer was always soft in this market and it's going to be soft this year.
I don't think people realize how much Canadian business and Chinese business that comes to Las Vegas monthly.
You know what the reason why? A Canadian person in Toronto will decide today that they're coming to Vegas.
They can do it. There's direct flights.
They will get on the flight. They will not have a hotel when they land and then they will check in and they're considered a walk-in. It wasn't necessarily a planned trip. They can stay 24 hours, do whatever it is the Canadian's going to do here, and then get out of town.
And that's a real thing.
And they'll do it on a random Wednesday. Right? And so it's just, and there's a huge volume of that. We were doing studies at Expedia, and this was one of the weird facts that popped out of it is, what demographic jumps on a plane last minute and comes to the city, and it was Canadians over someone from LA. Everyone thinks LA, it's so close, they'll just drive in. No, it was Canadians from Vancouver and Toronto.
Is there a percentage that you would see?
I could come up with a number. It was enough to be significant.
For you to remember.
Blasted. Oh, you think 250 mile radius to Vegas? Oh, that's all the last minute travel? No, it was Canadian. It was wild.
There's been so much talk about it. The other piece in Las Vegas that I see, and what I've heard, I've had a couple people challenge this on social media with me, is just that it's too expensive now. And that even Americans don't want to go to Vegas because I guess Resorts World just pulled back parking. Now they made it free again. But there's all these pieces of resort fees and parking and entry into clubs, table service is like the GDP of a small country just to hang out with Tiesto or whatever it might be. Do you feel like the pricing has also been a deterrent, or it's just compounded with all the other internationals?
As a local, it would be a splurge for me to go to a day as a local. So even if I Uber, that's $50. Everything's $50. Remember when it used to be $5 and $10 or a $20 max? What have you?
$4.99 steak and eggs.
You lived here. It was, it's $50 to park. It's $50 to get in. It's $50 a drink round. So it's just 50. These things add up. I'm just making up these numbers just to give everyone. You're dropping in any given day like $500 to $1,000. So it is expensive. I've done personal analysis. Sometimes it is cheaper to go to Hawaii.
Wow. From Las Vegas. Well, there are direct flights to Hawaii from Las Vegas. There's a huge Hawaiian population.
It is cheaper for me to go to Hawaii than it is to stay on the strip for the same number of days.
Without a flight, considering.
Without a flight?
Wow. Because, let's break that down for a second. You could take Southwest, right?
The concept of entertainment is different from Hawaii to Vegas, right? So you do need to do something at night here. I mean, you're not staying in the room. So add the entertainment and all the eating and beverage and the room, because especially if you want to stay somewhere nice. And for 7 days, that's a long time in Vegas.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I say this all day. It's like 3 nights max. 2 nights better.
3 nights?
3 nights max.
They have your Monday out after 4.
Oh, we'll schedule. But you're right. That's crazy to think that you could go enjoy a nice resort in Hawaii.
I mean, not to fault them, like with the huge rebound with revenge travel after COVID, once you start to hit certain ADRs, like what sort of publicly traded company is going to tell the Wall Street that they're going to have to come down on rate? Zero, right? So, I mean, it's shareholders are, for right or wrong, are a part of revenue management, of profitability. So, that's why you start charging for parking. That's why you start adding in fees for X, Y, Z. Personally, as a consumer, that they'll need to backtrack off of that. But unraveling that machine is going to be.
But it always bounces back, Daniel. We've seen it.
Sure.
It will come back, and it always happens.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if our recession periods in the past are like that.
It'll take a little bit longer.
Prime days is now going to be 4 days versus they're going to give you more time. Buy whatever. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, and I'm a consumer just like you are. So I wish everything was way more affordable.
Don't we all? Well, hey man, thank you for making a little bit of time to have this walk down memory lane, but also give your insights on ticketing as well as event travel and Las Vegas, of course. So hopefully we could do it again soon, or I can jump on your pod and we can continue the conversation. But thanks, Daniel. I really appreciate it. And that's a wrap on this episode of Tickets to Travel. Big thanks to Daniel Wathen for joining us and dropping decades of insight. From the early days of putting hotels online to the evolving intersection of ticketing, travel, and live events. If you want to connect with someone who truly understands the business from the ground up, look for Daniel Wathen on LinkedIn today. For more conversations at the crossroads of travel, tech, and entertainment, make sure to follow us at Tix2TravelPod on all the social platforms and visit www.tttpod.com for episodes, show notes, and much, much more. And remember, every ticket is a ticket to travel. Safe travels, everyone.
Attention travel and ticketing innovators. Whether you're a startup disrupting the industry or an established company ready to take your distribution strategy to the next level, Expo Travel is your ultimate partner in online travel and ticketing distribution. We specialize in helping businesses of all sizes optimize their operations, expand their reach, and unlock new revenue streams. And for startups looking to grow, we partnered with top venture capital syndicates to help you secure the funding you need to turn bold ideas into thriving businesses. From refining businesses to scaling operations and raising capital, Expo Travel is here to drive your success. Visit Expo Travel today. That's xpotravel.com for a consultation. And let's transform the way the world travels, one innovation at a time. Expo Travel, because the future of travel and ticketing starts with you.